So this morning we're going to talk about sequencer and linear animation workflows. Hope you've had a good SIGGRAPH so far. Let me play you a little sequence that I made, talk about workflows in sequencer. And for those of you who are not familiar, sequencer is a tool that's embedded inside of Unreal Engine. It's freely available like everything else inside of Unreal Engine. And if you're not familiar with sequencer, Unreal Engine is a non-linear environment where you can basically build and play games, and also you can do all kinds of things as we can discover about the engine. But sequencer very specifically is a linear animation workflow tool, but you can also sequence just about anything inside of sequencer. And one of the really powerful things is that as a workflow tool, it's being used very extensively now in Hollywood for making all types of experiences, because you can do anything in a sort of a linear timeline. And if you're experienced with working in After Effects or any type of Avid systems where you've got an animation workflow, you're going to be very familiar with these types of tools. So today what we're going to focus on primarily is the workflows behind using this. So let's roll the experience that I've built so that you can sort of see it run through. And what I've got here is a camera moving through an environment. And then our hero character appears in the space. And then the environment begins to change a little bit. And then everything changes and he's got to get out of there. So it's not a very complicated environment, but the first thing I want to point out is that this is not a movie. This is a live environment that I can scrub through, and if I eject from my camera, you can actually see that this is actually a real-time scene, and that I can scrub through it, and that all the things that are occurring in this space are actually happening in real time. So this weather change that's occurring and the environmental effects are all happening, and I have full control over how they happen and when they happen. So the time of changes and the effects changes that are occurring are things that I'm driving in the environment. And I want to show you how I'm doing this and how you can do it as well. So what you see here below, if you're not familiar with sequencer, is the actual sequencer panel. And I can actually pull this panel off and have it float in space here anywhere I want, or dock it anywhere. And this is basically sequencer. And if you've never really worked with sequencer, you can access sequencer in any couple of different ways. We've got a cinematics drop-down in our toolbar where you can create a level sequence or a master sequence. Or you can, anywhere down here in the content browser, right-click and through the animations tab, create a new level sequence. And that's basically what I've done. I've created a couple of level sequences and I've nested them in this master sequence. I'll go ahead and dock sequencer again here next to my content browser because it gives me a nice wide view of it. And I'll sort of break down what I've done in my master sequence. The very first track is my camera cuts track, and this is where I actually manage my cameras. And what I'm going to do is turn off my fade track down here just by coming down and deactivating it so it doesn't fade anymore. And you can see all of the cameras that I'm using shot for shot. And now one of the most powerful things about Unreal Engine is that it's a physically based engine. And all of my cameras are physically based cameras. And so we'll talk about them a little bit later because I actually have full film backs and lens kits that I can drive, full depth of field, and I can actually use f-stops and all the things that if you're familiar with photography or working in Hollywood with real world cameras, you'll totally understand as you're working inside of sequencer. But the next scene here is the sub-scenes track, and inside of my sub-scenes track is a really powerful and important workflow because I've created these sub-scenes, and inside of them I've basically nested a character track and an effects track. And I can burrow down on each one of these. The first one is my character anim track, and you can see as I double click it and I hit the home key to put it inside of my play area, this is where the character is moving through the space. And I can scrub through my character animation And you can see here that there's a couple of different workflows that you can use inside of Sequencer. You can use a spawnable workflow or a possessable workflow. And the difference is that when you're using a possessable workflow, I can place my character inside of the environment, and then Sequencer can actually grab him and then do whatever I want to within Sequencer while it's loaded. So in this case, I've actually placed the character in the environment, and if I step outside of Sequencer, I can find him and see that he just exists in the world. But then the minute I step into my timeline, you can see that Sequencer grabs him and then assigns him whatever animations that I've put inside of the timeline. In this case, I've assigned him a loop walk animation. So he starts walking through the space, and then he transitions to a whole separate animation. And this is very easy to do and very powerful because we have the ability to align animations end to end and then blend them over time. So in this case, he transitions from a walk animation to a jog animation. And I have full control over how these animations blend. I can go to my options, and you can see that I can blend these animations in a variety of different ways. If I want them to ease in or ease out or blend in a variety of different ways, I've got full control over that. So in this particular sequence, I'm looping from a walk to a jog, all the way to a run. And if I wanted to add another animation to the end, I totally could. And one of the cool things, if I decide to delete my run animation here in the end, you can see that now all of a sudden he runs out of animation. He's no longer animating. So I can decide to bring in another animation right here on the end by choosing from my animation library. And these are all the animations that are available to me. And these are basically small motion capture animations that I've got in a library available to me. And I can go and find any one of them. And if I come up to my animation library for my character, these are all freely available, as is this environment from the Unreal Engine Learn tab or the Marketplace. And I can see that I've got basically all of these animations available to me. And this is the run animation. And what I've done is I've now launched the animation editor inside of Unreal Engine, and this is all the animations that are available. And I can browse through all of them. I can either choose run in place, or I can choose run and stop. So let's say that I wanted to change the animation, and he's running and stopping all of a sudden. So I can come back into Sequencer and say, well, let's choose run, or let's choose run to stand. So now as he's moving through the space, he runs and then he stops. Now what you see also is that I've got a transformation track above, and I've keyed his location over time and space. So I'd have to change that animation. So for now, let's get rid of this one and just drop run back into place, and let's see how that interpolation works. So I'll just run back in here and grab my run animation. And as he moves through the space, there's running, but you see that that run animation is actually pretty short. If I wanted to extend it, all I need to do is just drag it out, and I have run all the way to the end of the cycle. And if I want to interpolate it, all I need to do is, just like most editing software, just drag it over, and it automatically transitions from jog to run, and it will blend between the two animations. So as I zoom out, if I want him to run all the way to the end of the sequence, he'll continue to run indefinitely until the sequence runs out. So very easy to stack animations end to end and get a result like this one. Let me show you another variation of this so you get the idea of how it works. If I go into my animation character level sequences, here I have another variation that we can take a look at. In this case, the character is running. And let's zoom over to the other side so we can see it from a different angle. And he walks, and he goes into his jog cycle, and then he stops. He looks around a little bit, and then he continues his jog and heads off screen. Now, one of the really amazing workflows is that I can have an animator working on these blends in a subscene like this completely separate. And so my animator can be working on these subsequences while a completely different sequencer artist is working on a master sequence, or a completely different artist is working on the effects track. So let's open up the environment track. And this particular artist is working on changing the environmental effects. So in this case, this is a completely different level sequence. And in this level sequence, what I've done is I've taken all the elements that create the sky. Here I've got my directional light. And I'm going to hit the G key so I'm no longer in game mode. And you can see now that I've got my directional light selected. And I've selected all the elements that I want to animate inside of Sequencer. In this case, I've got my intensity, my light color, my temperature. I also have volumetric scattering, my light shaft occlusion and bloom. I also have my skylight. My skylight is responsible for all the ambient light in the environment. And I have all the street lights in the environment as well. Every one of these street lights has been brought inside of Sequencer. So all the illumination in the environment is accounted for. Now, if I wanted to bring in anything inside of Sequencer, all I need to do is say, maybe I want a new light. I can say I want this point light, or this, well, I don't want a new directional light. Let's bring in a new point light into the scene. If I wanted this new light to be brought inside of Sequencer, all I need to do is say, let's have this light as well. So I can go to my tracks button here and just say add a point light, and now it's available to me as well. And any animatable parameter, which is any one of these little tick box elements, is now available for me to animate inside of Sequencer. I don't need it, so I'll get rid of that guy. So that's how I got all of my lights inside of here. Now, some of the other elements that I brought in are my fog. This is my exponential height fog, and I'm going to change that over time. I'm also going to change my atmospheric fog, and I'm also going to change the clouds. I want the clouds over time to start broiling much more violently across the sky. I also want to change the post-process. I want to change the global exposure in the scene, and I also want to change the intensity of basically all the mood, my contrast in the scene, and use a lookup table to basically make everything much more moody. And finally, I want to bring in some clouds. So as the time rolls and the rain starts to happen, I've got some clouds that roll into the space. And then finally, one of the most powerful tools that is available to me is that I can take all the materials on all the buildings and all the meshes in the world and take all the scalar values that drive roughness and take a little material function and make everything become wet. And not only wet, but I can take all the drips that I use a normal map to affect, and watch this. If I zoom in close to this corner, over time, everything starts to accumulate water. And watch the street here. It begins nice and dry, but because I can actually, within Sequencer, reach in and talk to every material in the environment, I can actually change the sidewalk from nice, dry, ashy, sunny day to a nice, moist and rainy affected. So if we watch this whole thing play out without the camera authoring, the whole environment changes from a nice, dry day to a very overcast, sunny day with the vapor lights kicking on. Let me hit the G key again so you can watch it from a distance as all the weather systems kick in at once. Now, the rain, how's the rain happening? Okay, so the rain is actually just a particle system. Actually, a series of particle systems. There's a whole bunch of them in the environment, and they're always there. I got to stand in the light because the film guy is telling me not to stand. And so the rain is always there, but I'm actually reaching in within sequencer and telling the texture not to show up at the beginning of the scene, right? So there's always a texture map there, and the rain is always falling, and actually I can prove it to you. Let me select the rain. I can go into my world outliner and find all of the rain in the scene. Here's all my rainstorm stuff. And even when I scrub all the way to the very beginning, there it still is. Even if I hit escape and deselect it all, look, the rain is still there, even if you can't see it. Why? Because I've taken the texture that is the raindrops and made them invisible. So what have I done? I've cheated. Sue me. Right? That's what we do in real time. We cheat a lot. And it's okay. It's okay if you cheat. Actually, making things run really, really fast is an exercise in learning to cheat really, really well. So if I play this over time, you can just watch it transition nice and slowly. And everything kicks in and the fog starts to change. The light begins to change, the clouds come in, they start to broil more intently. The street lights kick in, all the surfaces begin to change, and it becomes a moody day. Now, for those of you who have watched the Weather Channel, this is how they're doing all the storms, and this is how basically a lot of those effects are being done. This is a more simplified version, but a lot of that happens in this linear type workflow. Now this is once again one level sequence. Let's talk about how all of it gets assembled as a master sequence. If I go back to my master sequence here and I open that up, what I was just showing you is now sitting right here. And I can bring in any one of these as a sub-scene track. So if I click on my sub-scene track, these are all the level sequences that I've created. And one of the powerful things about the workflow of using sub-scene tracks is that I can now move these anywhere along the timeline. So if I want my character to move at a different pace, I can just move this track. I've locked it at the moment, so if I unlock it, I can move my character along any way I want. I'm going to undo that because it'll break my cameras, and then I can lock it. So if I've done something and I don't want somebody to mess up my timing for my cameras, I can always lock my tracks so that things work as planned. So I've created 2 different tracks, or maybe I had a couple of different artists. I had the effects artist working on one level track, and I've had my animators working on another level track, and now I'm the sequencer artist reassembling all this. And now I give it to layout, and I say, let's create an experience. Let's create some cameras. You can bring all of this together now in a master sequence. And one of the workflows, you saw how all of this stuff is being possessed by sequencer. Now the other workflow is to be spawned by sequencer. These cameras don't exist in this environment. Sequencer is actually going to spawn these cameras on the fly. And you can do this with all of the elements that I showed you, because that's one of the great powers of sequencer, is that it actually can spawn all the elements that it needs, use them as it needs it, and then flush them out of memory. So in this case, all of these cameras are created, and if I needed to create another camera, I'm going to lock through my camera cutscene. You can see that my cameras have been moved through the space, and let's say I wanted to create a new camera. Let's say right about here I want to transition to a new camera. I can always spawn a new camera right at this location, and I can do that just by clicking on this new camera. And it's going to create a new camera, and it created one that I don't like the naming of, so I'll delete that one and create a new one, and it created a new camera that I don't like the naming of, so I'll try it one more time. There we go. And all I need to do is now move this new camera to where I want it. So you can see that I'm in pilot mode for that camera, so I can decide to move that camera maybe down to this angle. catch a nice low angle of my character running through the space. And I've got all of these controls because our cinematic cameras have full film backs that all conform to Hollywood standards. And they also have lens kits that conform to Hollywood standards. And they all have accurate aperture settings, so if I really wanted a great depth of field and I wanted to pull my camera back and really get a nice blur in my foreground element here. So this was nice and blurry as he ran by. I can get all that control right here on my camera. And then I've got the ability to use this eyedropper to focus directly on my character, and then I can actually use this plane to decide exactly where I'm focusing my attention. And I can turn that guy off. And now I can assign that to my camera cuts. So I can bind this new camera in place, and you can see it creates a new cut there. So as I'm moving through my scene, as the character runs by, it swaps to the new camera, and maybe right about there I'm going to swap back to the original camera, which I believe is camera 10, and we get a new cut right in place as he runs by there. So now let's play the whole thing. We'll re-enable our fade track, and let's play it all back and see how it runs before they kick me off stage. I'm going to hit F11 so we can watch the whole thing in full screen mode. You can see the depth of field kicking in. You can see that I've got all my burn-ins in the bottom. When I render this out, all my burn-ins are available to me. There's my new camera. There you have it. It's very simple, very powerful, and from a workflow perspective, you can divide the work across many different animators, many different effects artists, start to layer your cameras. One of the other powerful things is that you've got a visibility track, so you can actually segment all the different layers inside of a level so that you can make visibility tracks. So if you've got different lighting, you can turn lighting on and off for completely different looks and feels, and have whole different environments exposed and unexposed. So I hope that was informative and helpful. Sequencer is an incredibly powerful tool that's only getting powerful each version. In version 4.23, there's a whole host of new features that are even going to make it more amazing. So hope you guys have a great rest of your SIGGRAPH, and stay tuned for some next presentations that are also going to be great. Thank you very much.